I got to make sure they're all on first.
Amazing.
Okay, here we go. Okay, good, good. Yeah, good. All right. Welcome everybody on the live and the replay. Pardon my hair, but I've spent enough time on it today. I'm not even going to go there. We got the beautiful, beloved, brave, bold. Hmm. I was going to use another B word, but I can't think of it. What I was going to say was honest, real, um, down to earth. Melissa Ford's in the house. Yeah. So we're going to allow people a little time to come in. I'm just going to put on the intro real quick. We'll be right back in a little about a minute and 19 seconds. What's happening, everybody? Melissa Ford's in the house. Look at her, man. She's just glowing. I made a joke to her and I said, "You must have met some young, good looking guy." And I forgot, I didn't actually forget where when I was saying that. I remembered you had been in a relationship for quite some time. And then you made reference to freedom, and that you extracted yourself from, we don't want to make light of anything, but the matrix or the system or whatever you want to call it. And I actually had seen, and I don't catch too much anymore on on social media because I don't have time. But I did see. I don't know how long ago it was. You can fill in the details, but I saw where you had, and we had talked about it before because you were you've been on I think three other times, and you were kind of like. Uh, where a lot of us are, but particularly the feminine energy, like you were talking to me about how you were trying to, you were in the beginning of kind of putting yourself out there in terms of, as a practitioner. And I don't know if you mentioned about breaking away at the time, because I remember it was an interesting conversation because I think you worked like at it was like like kind of like a Starbucks, I think, or
Correct.
something. It was okay. And you were saying how much value that it had given you, because that was most of the conversation we had, was how you were in this non-light worker atmosphere, yet your light was being seen, and inexplicably, at least from a 3D sense, people were like come up to you and ask you things, and you were kind of like the weirdo, but at the same time you were like the facilitator. So that sounds like quite a transformation within the transformation. So, yeah, how did all that happen, and how does it feel, and what's going on?
It feels amazing. Yeah, this glow is probably a Reiki afterglow as well, because I just had a really beautiful session with another member of the Soul Tribe, and it's all happening very seamlessly and organic. And it's just literally when you decide that you're going to get out of your own way and stop letting that fear be what stops you from fully being seen, then it all kind of just unfolds.
Right on. Did you have to spend a lot of time, um, contemplating it, or did you just wake up one day and go, "I'm going balls out. This is it. I'm done."
I love checking in with you because we will go months without seeing each other or touching base because I'm not on Facebook very often, to be honest. And you pop into my head, and I always wish you well, but I also know that you guys are crushing it too. So these are like real checkpoints for me, I feel, to witness my own growth and expansion, to remember our conversations and where I was. And the first time that I ever connected with you, I was very much afraid of being seen, afraid of exposing my gifts, of being a starseed, of how I found Reiki, how that transformed my life. I was still very meek about it.
Yeah.
Whereas now I can look back at that version of myself to say, oh my God, no, now I'm just like, I'm on.
I know you are, man. It's like crazy. There's like you, there's another one. I know that you and this other young sister, and I think there's another one, but I can't think of it right off the top of my head. But they're like miniature Morgans, not miniature, but younger versions, right? Like it's so interesting because I see the same energy in the both of these, you and the other young lady, who's about 23, I think 23, 24, and it's really interesting because of course, I'm with Morgan, and we eat, drink, breathe, and sleep ascension and personal growth, and what she has the intel of what's happening collectively, and seeing that reflected individually, and then seeing the transformation and metamorphosis occurring of the feminine energy. Like it's just it's not like someone shoots a cannon off. It's just like every day it's coming. It's like, you can just see it. And then every day it's almost like the reverse of a wake on a boat. The boat goes and then the V's behind it. This is more like the V. It's inverted, because every day that as y'all move forward, the space gets wider and wider and wider. You know what I mean?
Yes, I totally know what you mean. It's but yeah, to elaborate a little bit more on what you were mentioning before was being pushed into it. I think that a lot of us have been feeling the call to step deeper into our truth and purpose for a long time. And I felt my back was like up against a wall, and I was put in a position to actually ask for less for myself because of the state of the world. A lot of businesses are struggling. I, in essence, was going to be demoted. And that's when I said, oh, universe, you're funny. You're funny the way that you work, because I know that I can't ask for less for myself. So I guess this is my time to jump. So I wanted to share that very openly as well, because I know so many people are in this position where they feel like, shit, man, like it's just relentless. Like, when am I going to catch a break? Like, I'm doing all of this work, but that's the opportunity. That's the silver lining, is that it's all just pushing you to your breaking point to say, when are you finally going to step up and claim what you're worth? And finally just like turn that light on to make that leap. And I was so terrified leading up to that point, because I had given quite a bit of notice. I'd been there for a long time. And I was so scared, being like, how am I going to make a living? How am I going to market myself? How am I going to do this? And then literally the last day there, I also was on somebody else's spiritual podcast the same day. And I was like, that's how. That's how. It's just like the transition is just like you close one chapter and the next is open. And for me, it happened the exact same day. And I think it was very affirming for me to be like, yeah, it was time and I was ready. And that was it.
Yeah.
And then from then there's been no fear, and I haven't marketed myself once, and I've been getting clients. People have been coming and reaching out to me, connecting with me. It's been crazy. It's been really amazing.
Yeah, it's true that that line in The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, the universe conspires with you, and it's inexplicable from a 3D perspective, because it doesn't make any sense, But at the same time, there's a thread of proven truth, like for instance in this case, I'm going to go back to my old life, in the business world, but the most effective form of advertising is word of mouth. And I think that's if you want to prove it, like, from a 3D sense, that's what's happening. But I agree with you. Like stepping out, you can't make that shift up. Like, you do that show on the day, and that's basically word of mouth. I mean, and then somebody sees it, and then I got a message. I did a little Soulspeaks mix last night, and one of the people that's now in the support team at Soulspeaks, she made a comment on it, and she said, this song is the song that some friend of mine sent me, whatever, a couple of years ago, and that's how I found Soulspeaks. So it's like, I don't know, and that's why I love this format, because we're putting code out there, information, like a signal. I don't know what you call it, like a honing signal, like, and it's just all congealing now. But it's all rooted in that, what you're talking about, which is interesting too, because as the years gone on, especially now, these things that are not our true self are getting louder. And a lot of times we think, oh, well, it's this blind spot I have, I'm unconscious, or this distortion, or this program I have running. But it's also the other side of it, where the universe is like pushing, like taps you on the shoulder, then it nudges you in the ribs, and then it like slaps you on the head, and then it kicks you in the ass if it has to, because they're getting louder too. I mean, we're being, by force or flow, sent into the proper trajectory, and I think that lends to the fact that this is beyond ourselves. It's a collective ascension.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, I couldn't tell you how many people in the last month have reached out to me to say, what is this starseed business that you're talking about? Like, there's a lot of people, I feel, just from my observation, that are coming online. They're like, this is what's happening. Like, I know that you've been talking about this, and at the time it was kind of like, wah, 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 but now
Charlie Brown's teacher.
I'm ready to hear it.
Yeah.
And I know that there's truth to that. So they're like seeing me as an ascension guide, in essence, to walk them through those beginning phases, which is also really pretty bizarre too, for me to go back to where I grew my roots, because I didn't have anybody. Like, I had no awareness of anyone in my circle, near or far, that could help me break down what this process even looked like.
Yeah.
And I think that's been a big part of my journey, of being like, I'm just going to speak my truth, even when it's hard, even when nobody hears me, even if I'm in a very muggle environment. Love the muggles. I love them. That's why I'm here. But very much so, like, it's also really hard to be in that space, to feel so alone. And right now, since I've had this emergence, like, Soul Family has been coming out like left, right, and center. I feel so supported. And even though it feels like the restrictions are getting tighter in some ways, in other ways, I'm like more connected than I have ever been. Like, in the physical realm as well. Like, my tribe in Toronto has been coming forth too.
Wow. That's right. You're in Toronto. That's a big, dense metropolitan area. I mean, you can't have that many people together and be a hypersensitive empath like you and not have had to modify quicker and quicker and quicker into a higher level of alignment. That's it's a blessing that's a burden, and a burden that's a blessing. You know what I mean?
Always. Absolutely.
And so, like, but the thing is, and it's an interesting dynamic too, because we're approaching 2,500 episodes of this show. Sometime next month we'll hit it, and it's interesting watching the evolution of what is being put out there in the lightworker community. So, and initially you had 85% were females and 15% were males. Yet if you went on to social media, I'd say 75% of the videos, 3 out of 4 would be a man, and a lot of the women that were coming out, not all of them, and then not all the men, but for the most part, the projection was teacher, which is okay, guru type, not saying it in a bad way. This was the vehicle that we had available. But now, and I've watched those people kind of go through metamorphosis and have a good stress put upon them to adapt and modify and open up and detach from preconceived notions or patterns and behaviors. But what's interesting is watching the energy of you and Jamie Williams yesterday, and these women that are stepping up. That the human part of them is like, I don't want to do this, and been having a conversation with the higher self in the universe for like months and years, and now they're stepping up, and they're so effective. They're so powerful, and it's such a subtle cadence. It's just like I said earlier. It's just they just come. It just keeps coming, and it's powerful, and I'm thankful for it. I really am. So thank you for your part of it.
Thank you so much. It does feel like that. It feels like it's been a long time to align, but once you get to that space, like mountains are able to move from that space. A big thing for me, and I know many others, is just literally being seen. Like,
Yeah.
I know that there have been many incarnations where I'm speaking these higher truths where I was not in a position to be seen. It was not safe for me to do so. And so that's been my biggest thing to overcome, being like, no one's beheading me in this life. It's okay.
Yeah, I had a few of those too. But and so the other thing that I notice about the energy that you represent is it's non-competitive. It's all about self-empowerment. So regardless of what modality that's what I'm watching. Now I am seeing some evolving divine masculine frequencies stepping out that were also have the same characteristics of being in the background and kind of being tentative. But what's so cool about it is that it doesn't matter what they're talking about. When you is gets on the air, the energy speaks for itself. It's the energy of self-empowerment, and oh, look at me, I did it. So we've come from this practitioner template, which is what served us, and we honor it, which is let me do this for you. Let me, and then it kind of went, let me show you how to do this. And now it's like, I did this, like you carry the energy of I did this, so you can too. And it's not even in the instruction or the words or the modality. It's actually the energy and the smile and the glowing that you have, and it's going to be an amazing ride as this continues.
Yeah, thank you so much. And it's funny that you say that because it is an energy. It's 1000% just like an embodiment and a radiance. And I understand deeper a part of my path in that deeper embodiment always is people will see it and either be inspired by that to understand, wow, this is something that she overcame. If she can do that, I know that I can too. It is always from a place of empowerment and seeing the highest in everybody, understanding that everyone has it in them to make these shifts on a micro
Yeah.
level. On a micro level, it's all possible. It's all there for you. But
Yeah.
then I'm also observing an interesting state is that from my state of being, this is also triggering and activating a lot of people's
We're telepathic. You and I have, there's a few people like you that I was thinking, oh, this is where I'm going with it. And she just brought it up. Yeah, it is. It's, going back to what you said about the previous incarnations, um, the I guess I want to say that the realm itself was being dominated or controlled by the distorted, you can call it the patriarchal or whatever you want to call it. But I think that's the difference now. And so even though there's the pushback that we had in the previous incarnations, there's a difference now because the collective awareness or energy is now supporting this to thine own self be true frequency, self-empowerment frequency. So it's like the shoe's not going to drop. This isn't going to stop. And yes, you're bringing up a very valid point, which requires us to not take on the old distorted programs of, hey, why did you say that to me? And, and all that stuff, but just to pretty much let the energy speak. And what I've learned from it, from people like you, from Morgan, is as time goes on, because I came from the distorted side, the loud side, is I'm being more quiet. I'm letting fewer words or no words do the speaking, so that whatever's projecting at me can kind of swim in their own energy unobstructed without me engaging it. And that's something that I'm looking at myself going, I'm doing it, like you're doing it. Yeah.
Do you notice that as well, though? Like, I think that I'm moving into a place where I'm finally at peace with it too,
Yeah.
because I always wondered why, in just being my authentic self, in radiating, how people would be at times, very annoyed by that,
Yeah.
have misconceptions of, oh, it must be so nice to be so aloof all of the time. It actually takes a lot of conscious, deliberate work to get to a space where you're not constantly triggered by your external world, because
Yeah.
you dealt with one at a time, and then you come to this place of arrival where you can really be the observer more often than
Yeah.
not. And so I'm finally being like, it's okay. It's okay that I trigger people. and
Yeah. I mean,
it
it,
doesn't
it,
mean that I have to dim my light because I did that. That's the
yes.
thing.
Yes. Because the impact, I saw a great meme yesterday, and it said that the shadow of the empath is a narcissist, and the higher self of a narcissist is an empath. And so if you see the evolution of the empath, which was a big part of the early, say right after 2012, you saw the empath groups, and how do I live with a narcissist, and why do I feel all, and all the stuff that people worked out together in this community. You're right. The empath now has become spiritually confident, and it's so much of it is being represented by feminine energies like yourself, and it's become, um, it's not ashamed or embarrassed by the wisdom that it's achieved, and it's the humility is right there with it. And so, yeah, to be able to get to a point where we don't engage because we don't want to hurt their feelings, or we're actually serving our mirror in the best way by not engaging it and just saying, okay, that's how you feel, and move on.
Yeah.
I don't need to comment on that. I leave it there, and I honor your journey. You can do what you want.
Yeah, that's what I'm feeling too, is just that place of just non-resistance. Because if we feel like continuously like I need to push my views and my perspectives for this person to get on the same page as me,
Yeah.
you're really just pushing them farther away. And the same as if you're trying to draw that person in, like that, it's just, it knocks
Yeah.
us out of alignment.
Well,
That's
you're triggering them either way. You're going to trigger them if I say something to you like, "Hey, Melissa, you're doing great, but let me tell you how to do this." I've been doing this for whatever 5,000 videos, but
yeah.
that's that what I'm talking about. What you're bringing to the table. There's no competitiveness. There's no I got to be right. It's just me. Hi, I'm Melissa. This is me. And so to my point is, you're going to trigger them like you're talking about. But if we engaged them in the old codependent frequency, like I can't exist without you, so I'm going to throw a bomb your way. When you throw one at me, that's my fix. But what it actually does is you're just triggering me more and triggering me more. And then you're going to get triggered. And so what better gift to give than through the pure intention of I am soul, I am Melissa. Yeah.
Yes, and really just honoring everybody where they are, and that no one really needs fixing. I think that's been like the
Hmm.
funniest deepened realization, is like for so many years I did heavy lifting with so much intense shadow work and
Yeah.
really just like uprooting the rot, and for so long it felt like heavy work, but then it shifted at some point to be like, oh no, 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 I'm just creating more of that because I'm still
Yeah.
separately. But I'm not
Feed.
actually bringing it back home, which is through love and acceptance, to say there
Yeah.
was never anything wrong with me. These are just aspects of myself that I rejected.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to love them back into my heart space. And
Yeah.
I feel that realization with me has allowed me to deepen that with others as well, to say there's nothing wrong with them. They're just moving through their process, and this is where they are right now, and that's okay.
Yeah, and it's getting, and we're drilling down now. So like things are taking even deeper meanings, or well, so you have a wider perspective. So you're seeing things in others and in yourself, which is the same thing that you didn't see before. I was doing what I do, like it was just like 3 to 4 days ago, and there was a couple of shows within, let's say, a 5 show span in a couple of days. And I didn't say this on the air, but the person that was explaining something to me was kind of explaining about, hey, there's a great divide, and I'm just paraphrasing, and these people go over here to the higher plane, right? The 5D, whatever you want to call it. And these people go over here. And we honor their, and we honor the fact that they're not awake, and that and I had the thought in my head, is the communion is for all of us is becoming more consistent. I was like, how do we not know that those that chose to go left, or which is being viewed from the perspective of those that went right as being lesser than, it's the same way the other way around. The higher self, or whatever you want to call it, is calling the shots, and that's the best path for those people. That's nirvana, to go into, let's say, a deeper duality, because that's what they're choosing to do, and what balls they have, like
Yeah.
it's no different. Yours are just as big as theirs for stepping out, from a place of, how the hell am I going to support myself? But you're doing it, you know, and
Absolutely.
they're doing it too.
Absolutely agree with you. That's so true. I'm curious to know, because you've been doing this, like you said, 2,500 videos, which is
Yeah.
phenomenal. That's such a huge feat. And like, it's been a blessing. I feel it as a blessing because you're one of the first people that I connected with that helped me process what this meant. So the work that you're doing is so important because eyes are opening every day and they feel something deeper within themselves. They feel the call, but they don't necessarily understand.
Yeah.
And this, you're speaking to people at all different levels of consciousness in their journey, in their wisdom that they're bringing forth. And I just feel so grateful to be a part of that in a very human way. Like there's at times where I'm just like, I'm just human. Like I'm just
Exactly.
navigating this realm to the best of my abilities. And yeah, it's so amazing the work that you're doing. I'm so
Yeah.
grateful.
Thank you. Yeah, the human. That's another interesting thing to me, is no matter who you are, and like you said, like this is a kind of a microcosm of the diversity of what is put onto the platform. But there's a frequency that there's I guess really more than one. There's a set of frequencies that continues to expand. And one of those is, no matter who you are, you know, the human is front and center. And it's interesting because those who have been out there in a bigger way, and again, more power to them, and honor and revere them for what they've done, because that's what got us to a certain point. And so it's not about comparison or competition, but they're actually being more challenged with being human than those that are just coming out of the gate, because, and I don't know, one's not better than the other. It's just an interesting observation. And again, another example of the dance of polarities merging into the 0 point soul highway, but yeah, it's an important point that you made. The human, like that is probably the people talk about grounding. Go outside, take your shoes off, or do breathing exercises. But to me, it's like, where is Todd? Like, where is Todd? Like, it just, where does he stand? How does he feel? And it's important to me to tap in, because like they say, you got to keep it real, and don't take yourself too seriously.
That has been, yeah, a crucial part of this is just like laughter is to me the best medicine for alchemy, and allowing myself to detach, soften my attachment to the judge, to my ego, and to
Mm.
allow myself to explore and to not know and to ask questions and to play and to feel goofy and silly and really feel the fullness of this human experience.
Mm.
And yeah, it's just the messages that have been coming through for me have been to allow myself to fully be here and to anchor it. It always, for me, comes back to anchoring the light
Yeah.
into the body. And this is where all of the trauma is. So for me, and having a really turbulent upbringing and moving through so many different traumas on my healing journey, I realized how I actually severed my connection with my body,
Yeah.
because then I was up here trying to process and intellectualize and conceptualize all of it, when really I needed to sink deeper into it. And then I needed to actually feel it, which was a big eye opener when I did ayahuasca this summer. I had no visuals. And when I asked why, because I had a rather large dosage, I was like, why am I not seeing anything? I thought I would see some stuff. And then Mother Ayahuasca, the spirit of ayahuasca, had said to me, you see too much, now it's time to feel. And
Mm.
I was like, oh damn, okay, yeah, I guess you're right. and since that healing, I have been so in tune and connected with my emotions and honoring them. And I feel so much more settled in my body. And this feels like, for the first time in my life, a safe place for me to be,
Yeah.
which is huge.
That's a big. That's the power statement. The power declaration. That's not the right framing it up. Or not. I'm not framing it up right, but of a um, transformed empath to me, because it's not like a blast. It's just it's so human. It's like the weakness became a strength. It's like um, and I've heard people and watched people doing this, as the years gone on, which is being. I'll give you an example. My friend came in town a few days ago, and I went to visit her, and she said to me, and she's been connected since the '80s. She was already doing grid work when the harmonic convergence occurred in 1987, and so she said to me, "Man, I've been asking my guides, what do I need to do? Like what's next? Where do I go now? What do I do? And what's the next download? And what's my next level of service?" And she says, "I keep hearing just be. That's all you got to do now. Almost like it's done. Now you guys have collectively, individually downloaded enough. We underestimate how much work we've done. So just go be you." And I'm thinking to myself, wow, why is it the most profound things are such simple truths, right? I mean, it really be what is a bigger contribution that an individual can make to this transition we call ascension to the world, to the collective, than to just be yourself. First of all, it's the easiest thing to do. It's the
Yeah,
most exciting thing to do. It's the most mysterious path to take. It feeds our curiosity, which is a childlike wonder that is part of our soul. I mean, it's like we tried all the complicated stuff. Now we can just take it easy, right?
I love it. It's so true. I actually had a healing session just the other day with the divine masculine, and I knew that he wanted to go to war. I sensed a presence, and I threw my game plan of a Reiki session out the window, and I was like, no, that's not what we're doing today. And I actually busted out a coloring book and crayons, and I said, this is what your guides are telling me that you need right now. And it's the armor that you feel that you need to put on is heavy and it's
Yeah,
weighing you down. You
yeah,
actually need to shift and connect with that inner child and that childlike wonder and mystery and essence to sink deeper, to understand that there's nothing to protect.
yeah,
Really, we're always just protecting our own traumas, our own fears or insecurities that we developed very early on. And I feel like that's something that I'm happy to bring forth, is that playfulness and that ability to say, all right, we're just going to move our body in a way that might feel awkward to you, but we're going to loosen ourselves up and like let
Yeah.
ourselves be here. And it was a really powerful practice to say, like, be yourself, like,
Well,
let's have fun.
there's a lot in that. There's a lot in that anecdote about. There's a lot of things, you know. First, one of them is that jumps out at me is part of what I referred to earlier, where I've watched these facilitators modify or evolve their practice. You know, where like, and this is a perfect example. You have a certain modality that you utilize, and I've heard a lot of them say as the years gone on. Like, you know, how does your sessions go? How do they operate? Well, they used to go like this, but now it's kind of like it depends on who walks in the door and what's presented to what their higher self tells me. And so that's really, to me, a great sign too, because I'm a big believer that, you know, it's the spontaneous, intuitive, creative, you know, that sacred sexual energy is that way. It's very much on, you know, at the moment, in the moment, fully present. So that's a good sign to see practitioners making that transition and evolvement. And then the other thing that I really love about what happened was, because I can relate to it, believe me. Remember who I'm married to, but yeah, because there's something about hitting that distorted masculine part. Not to say that, you know, like for in my case, not to say that I don't have divine masculine qualities, but there are parts of me and have been parts of me that were still distorted. And when that emerges, and that's the face mask I have on, like you saw it in this person, to get it's to get the wind taken out of your cells in such a way, so quickly and adeptly, it's almost like cosmic humor. That's been my experience. Like you did that, like what you did to him energetically, Morgan's done to me. And you at one hand feel kind of stupid. On the other hand, you have no choice but just to surrender to the truth. And it's funny because it's so obvious. Like, oh, how did I miss that? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think particularly the masculine, going back to the childlike wonder, is a much bigger space. There was a bigger expanse between where they were at distorted and what that is versus the feminine. Um, you know, one of their attributes of being more connected to the higher frequencies. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. It was funny. There was resistance. There
I'm
was
sure.
But what was so beautiful was I got the download to do this, and I felt resistant to it. But this is what we're all doing, is we feel the discomfort and then we're soothing ourselves, being like, it's okay. And then settling back in, right? So there was resistance, there was a wall, but that's what we have to intuitively feel into. It
Yeah,
doesn't feel like an intellectual process to me anymore. I'm not
no,
conceptualizing these things. It's all feeling. It's all a
yeah,
matter, where is there disharmony? Where am I putting up those walls? Where do I feel those walls in others? And not being afraid to just go right there and just to be like, let's feel into that resistance, because once we acknowledge it and we face that, we can soothe it, settle into that, and then that block clears. It doesn't have to be heavy lifting. It can just be
yeah,
as simple as putting our attention there, sending it love, and then the armor drops.
yeah,
Like, the idea of having to go to war or battle, to me, is, I used to feel that way. I used to feel like that we're under attack, and now it's just a much more fluid ease of a gentle knowing within, of being like, when you have love in your heart and you let that love embody you, you're all is well.
yeah, yeah.
All is well.
Yeah, and that's and it creates such a fine line, kind of a crooked, tricky line in a lot of the different aspects, because people are, I don't know if it's the right way to say it, is that we're at different levels of consciousness, but just different, we're just all at different vantage points. And so, you know, something like what you're talking about in regard to the process of an individual, that's not to say that somebody, it's not the best thing for somebody, and they'll know it, is to go into, uh, you know, letter by letter, word by word, step by step into a modality or a process almost like training wheels, and what you're saying is very true, because what I've noticed, and you just said it, is, and I guess what I'm saying is, in other words, you've gone through all those motions, and because of the energetic support in the field and your own personal growth, it's now done at a more of a quantum level. Like,
Mhm.
almost like when you speak or get something, that the transformation and the awareness are a simultaneous alchemic, reaction. So I think we're starting to see evidence of that, which falls in line with the expanded telepathy and the higher levels of intuition too.
Oh, it's amazing. I don't know if you're feeling into this too, but definitely more telepathic connections.
Yeah,
The second somebody has a thought in a session, I'm talking about it. Like today, today in the session, it was funny. I was like, "Oh, well, something's definitely moving because I'm burping on your behalf." And it's funny the way that we can see energy. It's just energy,
yeah,
but sometimes it might come through in muscle palpitations or burps or laughs or tears, like so many different ways. But I'm like, yeah, I'm clearing something on your behalf here, like it's moving through me. And she was like, get out of here. I have a burp in my throat that won't come out. So it's like we're witnessing each other's magic
yeah,
instantaneously, which is just validation and confirmation for both parties that, yeah, just speak your truth in every now moment, and
yeah,
it's going to activate each other on such profound levels. Like even
yeah.
something so simple like that helped her deepen her faith, you know?
Absolutely, absolutely. The synchronicities now are, because to me, the synchronicities for me have always been signs of alignment, and for a long time, for most of us, it was the 11 11s and the 55 55s and the 33 33s, and seeing a set of numbers 6 times in a day or something, and then animals and, coincidental meetings. But now it is taking on, more of a, say, a five sensory type of validation. But yeah, I can totally get what you're saying, and I've experienced it like a number of times, like when I went to Sedona this last time, and I would be in somebody's space, and and it's just like being like like we both just knew the same thing at the same time, or felt the same thing at the same time. And of course, it happens with Morgan and I all the time. In fact,
Mhm.
as these energies come in, it's, one of the things we'll say, are you feeling nauseous? Like, I'm feeling nauseous, and it's not always right at the same time, but shortly after, it's the same. It's like tuning forks, I guess, is another way to put it.
Yes, that's totally how I experienced that too. And it's been like with those closer, intimate, obviously you're around them all the time. You get to witness each other's synchronicities more, but to do that with like perfect strangers or a first encounter, people are like, that was weird. What was that? And I feel like it's so cool to be able to spark that magic or realization or bring someone's awareness there.
Yeah,
And it does feel like I'm stepping into that deeper on a more grounded level, just in, like you said, it's a presence, it's an energy, it's every interaction. I remember going in to get a coffee one day and the girl was like, oh my gosh, your energy, like, what is
mhm.
this? Your glow. I'm just like, it just feels so good because I know even in that exchange, no teachings need to be done,
Right.
no words need to be exchanged. Just from being in each other's authentic presence, we
Yeah.
activate things on a very deep level that
Mm.
our mind could never even fathom.
Yeah. 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 Morgan says, like, where we've been has been instruction, tutoring and instruction, and, specifics, steps, modalities, and such. But that 5D, well, whatever this is, 5D plus New Earth, whatever, is all about exchanging code. And I've noticed this too. It's, well, I'm going to say it happens online. We've all experienced picking up each other's telepathy and code, but there's something going on that's much deeper, and that's just being in the presence. I spent a couple hours with my friend that came in from out of town, and another friend lives around the corner last night, And we were talking about, we were conceptualizing and analyzing. You know, that was kind of where the conversation was going. I finally looked at him, and we were just happened to be sitting in her den, and one was on this couch and one was on that couch. So there was a perfect triangle. And I said, actually, it doesn't even matter what we talk about. You know, in fact, the more we talk, the more we're going to potentially fuck it up. But we're actually in a triad right now, and I'm picking up what I need from you, and vice versa. Uh, there's something going on with that, and it's real. You know, it really is. It's like getting three magnets together, or whatever you want to call it, or however you see that in your mind's eye. But there's something about that. Like we are, you know, it's not a cliche that we are moving into less verbalization. You
Yes.
know, we really
Yes.
are.
I totally feel that. I love that you mentioned that. I've been feeling lately a lot of heart activations. I don't know how you experience light body activations, but for me, it's such a cold, it's from the inside and it's like ice cold and
Yeah.
like a numbness, but an energy that flows. And I remember um, getting hit with a wave of exhaustion, being like, I need to lay down immediately. And as before my head hit the pillow, my heart like felt that ice cold light body activation. And I just felt myself gently lift out of the body and be like, this is interesting to observe right now. But we're integrating things at such a fast pace and level now that I feel that, yeah, it has its own language and we don't have to intellectualize it so intensely. But
No.
I took it as a very reassuring energy of we're moving in the right direction. And again, all is well. All is
Well,
well.
you know, I'm really glad you brought that up before we run out of time, because I want to give you some time to to talk about what you're doing and where people can find you. But the light body, like I don't want to go too deep because I've talked about it on the show. You know, Morgan and I's experience, but the light body is like, to me, it's like leading the way or something. It's like the bridge. I would almost call it like the soul, because it's this connection between those higher aspects that we're all pulling down consciously or not, and the human, right? And so as it's coming in, it's like the light body to me is like the emissary. It's like the bridge. You know, it's the escort. Like it's actually teaching and showing, not through verbalization. Like, okay, I got this download, and this is what they told me through images and words and phrases. It's more like just you're feeling through the light body. It's like that's the access point. And yeah, I've had that same thing happen. In fact, if I go upstairs, because I'm down in the shed, you know, we have a couple of rooms down here, so we have a studio down here, and it's getting cool down in Arkansas now, and I'll go upstairs, and we're going to be like, "Do not touch the heater again. You had it on 74," and I'm like, "It's cold," you know, and she's like, "No, you're just processing," but it is from the inside, and I don't get it so much coldness in the heart, you know, and we're talking temperature, people, like we're talking sensation. Like I get like this prickly thing, like almost like your arm goes to sleep, but it's from the inside out, and it's cold. I mean, I literally, and my bones are cold, and I know it's light body because I've seen it, and you know, more importantly, I feel it.
Yes, it's so funny because it took me a really long time to put an awareness around that experience and to not freak myself out and be like something bad is happening. These ascension symptoms, like I'm so grateful that I have processed them in this way and that people are seeing me as a light to gravitate towards to better understand this because I went through like every test that you could ever imagine just trying to understand the soul. It's
Right.
like it's profound because I wake up just knowing things. I wake up just being over certain hurdles that once upon a time were really challenging for me to maneuver through or around. You know,
Yeah.
triggers dissolve. There's such amazing, profound effects of having these light body activations and just to like turn on, right? In essence, come online a little bit deeper, a little bit more. And that's what I'm getting to with the ayahuasca ceremony that I had. Now it's time to feel, it's time to connect to the body. I've been exercising more. I've been taking better care of my body and what I'm eating. And I realized that what I'm doing is I'm making more room in the physical vessel
Yeah.
to embody more light.
Yeah.
And it's not a matter of compartmentalizing these aspects as I did once upon a time, where it's like, I'm working on the meat suit, I'm working on the mental health, I'm working on the spiritual journey, I'm working on the shadow, I'm working on the inner child. Now it's all just like a seamless,
Yeah.
flowing
Yeah.
game of play, where it's like I'm just honoring what shows up as it shows up and moving through it very seamlessly.
I agree with that. And, of course, I'm married to a shadow eater, a 0 point uh, pro, I mean, expert, master. This stuff she's downloaded for 20 years. And at the same time, I have obviously, and you're in a relationship, that the polarities are very pronounced and they're beautiful. And this is the gift of this whole trip, but one of the things I've noticed is, I look at a lot of the work that I did really as a client with Morgan, and there was obviously a lot of analyzation and self deconstruction and reconstruction, or deprogramming, reprogramming, and it's still very effective and very pertinent.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like a creative life force, like I know there's something to blasting light out, and I think I was seeing this alignment occurring that you're speaking of before it was happening, not out of prophecy, but just like, oh, I could see it coming. And it really was kind of a detriment, because I was like, no, I'm just going to do this. I'm not going to do that. I was compartmentalizing the opposite way you were. I was like, oh, I don't need to deal with that because I can do this. But you know how it goes. You can't miss a step on the soul highway. But anyway, now I see more evidence of this, and that you're saying it is even more evidence. And that is that other stuff will come up. We get through it quick, but we're really in a space now where we can spend our time developing our curiosity and our creativity and our sensuality. And I mean that in a much different way than a sexual way. And it's supported, and it's also an energy that expands proportionate to how much you put into it. Like you put it to work and it works for you. It's not just going to be served to you on a platter, with a silver spoon.
Yeah, it's funny. I definitely am feeling that creative
Yeah.
energy
Yeah.
and that divine feminine energy come out. I feel like I did a timeline thing. I won't go too in depth, but when I was in therapy prior to my awakening, we did a timeline of my life, and he was like, so you've lived in basically a neutral to low state of being your whole life. And that is accurate. I
Yeah.
would say that was accurate. But then now I feel like the script is flipped. And
Yeah.
now I'm in that elevated state
Yeah.
of being where I'm like, even things that come up that once upon a time were dark and scary to me, I'm still looking at it through a very loving, compassionate lens to say, I'm not afraid of it.
Yeah.
Come here. I know you just need a hug. Like, I'm so comfortable in other people's shadows because I've explored my own in depth. And it's just interesting to see that pole shift in myself to say I had to walk through hellfire to cleanse and burn away all aspects of myself, or help me deeper integrate, however you want to perceive it. All of the parts of me that, I disowned. And
Yeah.
now it's
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Own your shit and you will own your shift. Has your partner, has it put any good pressure on your partner to see you coming out like this and expanding? Like, I mean, has he noticed it? And uh,
yeah.
has there, you know how that works? It's like a seesaw, but yeah, it is. So she goes up, and then he has to go up, and then she, it's like that, which is interesting, because that hasn't been like that prior to this year. Not at least not for me, not from what I've seen in the collective. Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely a shift, like when I jumped out of that job to transition into soul purpose work, even though we're always in our purpose, no matter where we are or what we're doing, but just to create my own reality and whatnot.
Yeah.
He definitely felt like a plummeting, but now we're equalizing.
Yeah.
So we're finding that balance and rhythm
Yeah.
as twin flames, as perfect mirrors of one another. You understand that, yeah, like it's the same but inverted in essence.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely. Yeah, it's
and
I just had a beautiful couple on before you, and it was just God, it was just amazing, you know. And then in talking to him, I was like, you know, I love those points when you're like looking at your partner who like in this case, like you're just taking off like a rocket, and the other one's going, oh my God, like wow, she is all that, and then you get to that point where the epiphany goes off and you're like, wait a minute, I'm the same frequency as her, which
yeah,
means I must be that, and you're like, wow, because we've moved to a point now where there's less self-judgment and, all those self-sabotage programs aren't playing, and we can actually accept our divinity, which we're seeing in the mirror closest to us. It's a beautiful thing. It really is. And you are a beautiful thing. You are freaking amazing. You are, I know I'm biased, but yeah, you are just, you're on it. How can we support you? I mean, are you doing sessions online?
yes, I am
Okay.
doing distance healing sessions, very intuitively led. As you mentioned, there's a blurring of modalities and
Yeah.
things. So I always flow with that person's energy and what wants to be brought forth.
Yeah.
But there's always a crystal grid, intuitive card readings, meditation, the energy healing. It's all flowing very
Yeah.
seamlessly. But something that I do is I record it so you can watch it back too. And
Oh, wow.
it's very quantum, like
Yeah.
every
Yeah.
time you feel called to watch it again, you're going to extract a different layer
Yeah. That's
from that
true.
feeling.
That's true. It's like watching a movie. Anytime you watch a movie the second time, you're like, wow, I didn't see that last time. It's even better the second time. And that's awesome too, because you have such a diverse offering. Now, do you have a website, or are you still working mostly off Instagram?
I'm still working off of Instagram. I haven't had to do any marketing so far,
Okay.
which is amazing. It's all word of mouth, but it's the Inked Shaman.
The wait. Is it all run together? No. It is the Inked, Inked Shaman on
Yep,
Instagram.
on Instagram, yes.
Instagram. Okay. I know you're not on Facebook much, but obviously you're Melissa Ford on Facebook. Is that the only page you have on Facebook?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Melissa Ford on Facebook. And
Or you
do you have an
can,
email, or how do people get in touch with you?
yeah, they can email me at healingwithmel@gmail.com.
Healingwithmel@gmail.com. I don't usually do this, but I just have to say to everybody that's watching the live and the replay, I know I'm married to a very effective, powerful shaman, priestess, practitioner, and I think I know that type of energy, especially because of my experience with who I'm with. But you have the same thing. I can tell y'all she has something going on, and I can see the power of it because I can tell that it's very spontaneous, because that's the way she's always been, and very upfront. And very, if you haven't caught any of the shows she's done before, they would probably be a cool thing to do, to go back and watch it, because it's such an incredible transformation that we're all going through, and she's indicative of it. And at the heart of it all is the human. She's always been very human, but very effective, very able and adept. And I would recommend Melissa Ford to anybody who wants to consider expanding, walking through a door that they don't know what's on the other side, and having somebody uh, facilitate that. So, yeah.
I'm just going to go through a little bit of light coded information. You
Yay.
activated this in me. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You're very welcome. And I don't know about the rest of you, but did you see what her image was doing when she was doing that? I'll have to go back and see if that was just me seeing it, because sometimes it's me and sometimes it's actually caught on camera. But yeah, you just pulled up. Shoot, wow, that was amazing. I love you, and all blessings to you and your partner and all your loved ones.
Thank you so
And
much.
let me know if I can help you in any way. Okay.